Welcome back. Well, as we read in this very sad article, Mahsa Amini, a younger woman, was taken by police. Some people label them as the morality police, and along with many other women. And unfortunately for her, she was mistreated heavily and died while in their custody. And this sparked protests. This was just, it was the trigger. People were sick of it. Especially women, but also there are plenty of men out there that are as equally supportive of this as anyone in the world. And so they are right now, as we speak, protesting heavily against the Iranian government and trying to create some change. Because as the article says, Iran was not always like it was today. In the 70s, you can look at pictures. It looks like basically America in the 70s, quite hip and modern for the time. But then things changed, and now they are under a strict religious dictatorship, which has been quite unfortunate for the freedoms of the everyday people there. So yeah, people are done tolerating, and Iranians around the world, including non-Iranians, are trying best they can to support everything that's happening there. Yeah, so it's
even here in Seoul. I actually attended one of the protests outside the Iranian embassy here in Seoul, and there was I was very encouraged to see the amount of people who were there, who turned out from all different nations, and men and women as well. To join the protest. It's
good to see so many people involved, and I think the main form of protest in Iran has been just taking off the hijab. I think there has been, breaking some norms like hair length norms and things like that. But yeah, taking off the hijab, burning. I think people are done being humiliated. Women are done being humiliated. They're done having compulsory clothing. They just, if you want to wear a hijab, great. If you don't, also great. I think that's the basic message they're trying to get across. They don't hate the hijab, they hate being made to do things.
Yes.
They just want freedom. And now, this is in the article, but even more now, live rounds are being used.
Really?
Yes.
Ooh.
So people are actually being killed in the streets rather than there's also non-live rounds being used, like more suppressant rounds, but yeah. It's not a pretty sight.
It's scary stuff, yeah.
Have you had any sort of history of having these type of specialized police forces?
I think we've had such a powerful separation of church and state for so long. I really don't think anything that we could call morality police. I mean, we've always had laws, and some of them we may have agreed with and disagreed with, but I mean, I suppose if you go far enough back to the eras of kings and queens, when they actually had power, then there were times when it was illegal to be a Catholic, or we didn't have religious freedom. So I guess you could call that a type of morality policing, religious policing.
Yeah. I think if you go far back enough.
Yeah, but we're talking like the 1500s. It's a long time.
In America's history, I don't think there has been specialized police forces, but I just want to talk about the most recent one, which is Jim Crow era. Now, there were no specialized police forces, but there were politicians and people in power who used the police force itself to carry out specialized actions, which were against, of course, Black people in the U.S. And so that was most recent, lasted over, almost started 100 years before it ended, but definitely very strong, 50s, 60s, it's like that. I think 40s probably too, if I'm getting my history correct. But yeah, that type of stuff, the police force did special actions against, and I say special actions, it was pure racism and being against the Black people in America. But so I don't think we've ever had morality police. I actually didn't find any evidence of morality police, but there definitely was special police forces that didn't quite do what we would want them to do today.
Yes, it wasn't the law that they were following, it was something else.
Yeah, exactly. Walking down the street, suddenly a police officer comes up to you and is like, "Miss, skirt's way too short. You need to go home and change now or you're arrested. How do you think people would react?
With horror. I think freedom of clothing is pretty liberal. I think, unless you're literally in a bikini, unless you're literally naked, obviously that's illegal, but...
bikini at the beach, whatever. Bikini in the streets.
Yeah, I think you couldn't get away with that in the streets, but pretty much anything, the teeniest, tiniest skirts even, the strangest costumes.
America too, there's obviously unwritten laws about how you should dress, but in the end, police are not going to really arrest you unless you are, exposing the parts that are illegal to expose, which are, genitalia and the upper chest area for women.
But of course, when I asked this question in my class, some of my older students, they could remember an era of reasonably strict controls on dress code in the streets that was enforceable by police. Hair length, skirt length, things like that.
Wow.
In the 80s.
Wow. Oh, as early as the 80s, as late as the 80s.
Yeah, it's the Park Chung-hee era. Yeah. There were dress code enforcement.
Wow. Well, I'm glad Pagoda does not have a task force to enforce our dress code. Let's go ahead and look at that vocabulary a little bit deeper, learn about it, and then we'll see you at the next episode.
Absurd.
Absurd.
Hijab.
Hijab.
Secularize.
Secularize.
Humiliate.
Humiliate.
Token.
Token.